Alright guys, today we are going to be reacting to how I learned German. Jump in guys.
I've gotten this question a lot because you guys are nosy and really want to know how I learned the German language as a Brit. Disclaimer though, I wouldn't call myself fluent. I understand most of it and can hold a conversation, but you will notice within the first 5 minutes of talking to me that I am an Ausländer. It is still really cool to be able to speak more than one language as a Brit, though. You won't find many who can, sadly. Second languages are usually taught in high school, and unless you're actually interested, it's another one of those things you learn to pass a test and then flush out of your brain to make room for the next test you need to pass. Personally, I was made to take French, and I still wonder to this day what would have happened if I was allowed to take Spanish. The one out of those only 2 options that I was actually interested in at the time. Obviously nothing against the French language, by the way. I just liked Spanish, and it seemed a little more useful. But no, we love forcing children to study subjects that they don't want to and wondering why they struggle to pass the final exam. I started learning German once I met my partner from Germany. If you've ever had any international friends, you will know that the first thing they teach you is all the most useful curse words, plus a handful of miscellaneous words that just sound funny to your English brain. At this point, I never actually sat down and studied the language, and I kinda wasn't planning to, but I would just kinda absorb things subconsciously whenever I visited my partner in Germany. By the time I actually made the decision to move to Germany, I already knew pretty much all the basics. But wanting to know more than some random words and how to insult someone's mother, and quick in case this whole YouTube thing falls through, I enrolled in a German integration course. Because of my previous knowledge, I was able to skip the first section, and in total took the course for about 6 months, going to school every day for 4 hours, 5 days a week. I paid around €150 a month, so about 900 for everything, but I was able to get half of that back for passing the final exam first time,
wow.
thanks to the Federal Migration Agency. Thanks to that, I was finally at a point where I could survive in the wild on my own, and even get a job. But at this point YouTube was supporting me, so I receded to a life of never leaving my house. Since then, I never went back to school and have been improving my skills simply by being surrounded by the language while living here. Progress is slower, but also, you know, free. Learning a language naturally like this has its pros and cons. For example, I'm learning how actual German people use the language. The language you learn in school might be correct, but I think it's true in every language that the native speakers completely butcher it with slang terms. Like literally inventing new words every week, randomly changing sentence structure and grammar rules. You're not gonna learn that stuff in school. So non-native speakers going to a country for the first time often have a hard time figuring out what they just spent the last 10 years of their life studying.
Yo, this kid know how to edit videos, man. I'm having a lot of fun just listening to him. But more importantly, he has me locked into the content. I like this.
The negative...
Well, in talking about the topic in itself, I thought personally, since Britain English, right? British English is kind of a cousin of the Germanic languages. If you really listen to old English, we're talking about 12th century. There's some people that still talk that kind of language just to preserve it, right? It is very dramatic in some words. It's very interesting.
Of course, then, is that I struggle with more formal German, and my vocabulary is honestly severely limited. There are many pretty basic words that I just don't know or struggle to remember, just because they're less common in regular speech. I've been procrastinating on this for 5 years at this point, but I'm probably gonna have to start studying at least a little bit if I ever actually want to be fluent. Speaking of which, I'm guessing some of you clicked on this video hoping to get some tips yourself on learning German or some other language. And I don't want to discourage you with the just move there and pay for a course lol, so I actually have some tips for you. Typically, learning a language can be broken down into 4 sections. Reading is probably the easiest to study. I mean, it's kinda wild how much I learned just by coming here and seeing all the signs and stuff, and recognizing words and what they mean based on their context. But if you don't have the ability to go to the country, you can go there virtually. There's a huge subgenre of videos on YouTube of people just walking around different cities.
Yeah.
Not only can you check out what the country looks like, but you can see all the kinds
Yeah.
of words used on the street signs and ads, and learn some things that will be useful when you actually go there in person. Otherwise, there's lots of stuff you can read, especially stuff that you're actually interested in. Manga and comics are great because it's mostly speech. I find books aren't as useful if you're just starting out since they tend to use more uncommon vocabulary and tenses. But if you're at an intermediate level, you can read children's books, and if it's one that you've read before in your native language, that'll help a lot. You can even play video games in German. Either
that's
way,
a good one. Video games. I think the one that really helped me with my even my own English, because although I took English all my life, right? I studied English all my life since I was in preschool, actually, all the way to my bachelor's degree years. I struggled a lot. Now, when I came to the mainland, what really helped me was reading, guys. Reading in, out loud. It really helped me. Right now, I'm reading. I like to read a lot. So right now, I'm just reading the Intelligent Investor, by Benjamin Graham. A good book about investment. You're into this, right? And it's a thick book, but if you read it, it's good for you to read it out loud, and that way you can practice your pronunciations and also your muscles, because the tongue in itself is a muscle, so you need to train it, right? So that's one of the things that you can use to train to learn another language. Also, make sure you open a dictionary while you're reading it, because there's going to be words that you're not going to understand, so you need some kind of feedback on that. Just open a dictionary or have I will say, an iPad, right? With a dictionary, and that way you can type. So basically, the way I do it is put the iPad to the corner, right, like this, and just open my book. And sometimes I like to just drink a coffee or tea, whatever is more comfortable for you, and basically start reading it out loud. And then if you don't understand the word, go to Google or dictionary, right, and look for the word. Make sure you listen to it, and then just start using it yourself and start creating sentences where you can probably use that word. And that's how it really improves your language, right? That's how it works for me. And of course, writing it. If you have a journal, I have journals myself. I have journals that I just write in English. That helps a lot. That really helps a lot. The writing in the language in itself, that really helps. Really, really helps. Because your brain start really putting effort to create. You're putting your brain in a situation that needs to create. And when it needs to create, you create a stimulation, right? But yeah, that's how I learn. I just go back to the video.
if it's something that you're familiar with, it'll be easier for your brain to recognize and remember what the words you're reading actually mean. And if possible, reading German forums will also give you a more authentic experience with how Germans actually speak. Or write. For listening, I'd also recommend just watching and listening to stuff you enjoy. Combined with subtitles, you can also practice reading. Music is also really useful for remembering how certain sentences go. The catchier the song, the better. Just be aware that sometimes the grammar and such might be changed to fit better to the song, just like in English. Writing is a really tough one, because you can write as much as you want, you're always gonna need someone to tell you if it's correct or not.
Yeah.
The best way to practice writing that I've found so far is just to find native speakers to text with. Obviously that's not super easy, but as far as I know there are language learning Discord servers out there, and lots of people are willing to help you practice German if you help them practice English, or any other language you know. Writing is honestly my weakest skill in German. I have a bad habit of avoiding it just because English is so much easier and quicker for me to write in. As a result, I am absolute garbage at spelling. I feel like just reading words, you don't, pay attention to how it's spelled. You have to actually write it out a couple times to remember it. And similarly, if you want to practice speaking, you're gonna have to involve other people. Unfortunately, you really can't just speak a language even if you're great at everything else. Your brain knows all the words when you read them, but they don't just come into your head when you want to say something. I know you don't want to hear this, but you gotta just do it, man. Like, would you laugh at someone for speaking broken English to you? No? Then shut up and speak German. Probably the best way you're gonna find to practice this, aside from going to a German school, is to get a job over here. Even if you're not interacting with customers, you're most likely gonna be interacting with your coworkers a decent amount. Of course, I'm doing whatever this is, so I don't have any coworkers, which is exactly why speaking is one of my weaker skills. To help
Yeah, but
combat
you know what YouTube is doing is just giving you that platform or that opportunity to just learn great skills. See, when we do YouTube, I don't make a lot of money doing this stuff, but I just like it because I make a little bit of money in the side. But most importantly, I learn a lot. And but this, like him, he's probably making enough to just sustain himself. But it's a good gateway to just learn all the skills on the side. You see what I'm saying? So at the same time, it's a win-win. It's a win-win, guys.
at this, I actually started up a German channel, where I'm only allowed to speak and write in German. When I'm speaking to people, it often takes my brain so long to figure out how to say what I want to say, that the conversation
Yeah.
has long since moved on. So this is a great way for me to speak a lot,
Yo, shout out to this kid, man.
that the conversation has long since moved
Classical physics, the collection of theories that existed before the advent of quantum mechanics, describes many aspects of nature at a microscopic scale, but it is not sufficient for describing them at atomic and subatomic scales. Quantum mechanics is a fundamental theory in physics that provides a description of the physical properties of nature at the scale of atoms and subatomic practices. And he said,
on. So
I
this
like chicken.
This is a great way for me to speak a lot, plus get a bit of reading practice in there from
Yeah.
chat. But please only check it out if you understand German. I want to avoid people subscribing and just not watching because they don't know what's going on. In general though, my biggest piece of advice is to believe in yourself, man. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
The only way you're gonna learn a language is to keep doing it. And I see so many people quit because they lose motivation because they're not good enough. Bro, recognize that what you're doing is really impressive, like genuinely. Especially if you're a Brit. Or otherwise haven't actively learned that language since childhood. Learning a whole new language is hard. Unless you're a baby, I guess. Those guys are built different. But it's incredibly rewarding.
No, I don't think it's because they're different. It's just that at that point, there's adults literally just learning a language in a month. So it's not. It has nothing to do with that. It's when you're a baby, your mom and pop is always referring you with that language, right? So somehow you start picking up some kind of sentences structures. So you gotta start getting used to it. But that process takes a lot of years, guys. It can take between, you know what? We're talking about when you were born all the way until you're 5 or 6. You're already being bombarded with 1 or 2 languages, right? Daily. So it's almost a 24-hour study. So no, adults tend to learn things faster. However, they get demotivated faster. Okay? The reason they do that is because they understand the learning process, and they understand that it might take some time, and that in itself brings the motivation.
As a whole new world of media, people to talk to, and memes opens up to you. And even if you only know the basics, that's still a bunch of new words that you didn't know before, but do now. So I hope that all answers your question. Let me know if you enjoyed this. I definitely don't mind doing more German related content, but I do need to know if you guys actually care first. Thank you for watching, bye!
Great video, man. Great video. And shout out to him. Hopefully he is learning the language as well. It's not easy, but it can be done. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'll see you in the next one. I'm out.